I'm Sherilyn Muckleroy, and this is Romantic Romps. Welcome, everyone, to the podcast of Romantic Romps, where guests share their stories of love and how it changed their lives. The Life of Riley, Chapter 3. The first thing I had intended to do upon entering the agency was to ask the receptionist about my non-covered parking space. However, when I crossed the threshold, my thoughts faded from aggravation to surprise. I stood in what looked like a sitting room in someone's home instead of an office reception area. At one end sat a sofa with a peanut-shaped shell and stone coffee table with inlaid copper swirls. It was too beautiful, and no doubt too expensive, to have any magazines covering its design. Placed on the sofa's right was an end table with a real-deal Tiffany lamp, bronze base, and confetti glass shade with specks of different colors. On the left stood a well-developed ficus tree nestled in a hammered brass planter. The only thing making it look like a reception area was the receptionist's desk, minus the target to whom I would make my complaint. Alone in the room, I scrutinized the color choice of sofa and the largest wall. Whoever decorated this space had to be either colorblind or eccentric. The sofa and the accent wall behind the desk were a bright shade of lime green. I practically needed sunglasses to look at them. The wooden desk was contemporary in an upside-down U shape. Along the outer edge of the desktop, a glass shelf looked as if it hovered above the outside edge. To complete the room's decor, a companion ficus tree rested next to a closed door that I assumed led to the main office section. I put the strange furnishings aside and closed my eyes. A smile crossed my lips as my senses absorbed the pungent scent of recently installed wall-to-wall carpeting, mingling with the fresh, lemony fragrance of polished wood. In my reverie, I didn't notice the connecting door open, but that changed when I heard a female voice practically scream at me. "Well, wouldn't you know?" she barked. "What do you want, and be quick about it." Oh, with a start, I opened my eyes and saw a woman approaching. Her skin was olive, hair brunette, figure rotund, outfit outdated, and age somewhere in the mid to late 40 range. By the less than amicable expression on her face and an empty storage box dangling in her hand, I sensed she was preparing to perform an unpleasant task. My assumption proved correct when she moved the lid and slammed the box on the desktop. I took a step toward the desk. Good morning," I replied in my most affable tone, hoping my friendliness would counter her uncongenial disposition. "My name is Riley O'Keefe, and I'm reporting for my first day as office manager." The grouch narrowed her almond-shaped brown eyes when she gave me the once-over. "Looks like you crawled out from under a rock, Riley O'Keefe," she scoffed while bearing a taunting grin of satisfaction. "Did you look in the mirror before leaving your house? Do you not own an iron?" I defended my disheveled appearance. "I assume you are the receptionist, and if so, you gave me a parking space on the top floor and—" "And what?" she interrupted, then mocked. "Did it hurt your little feet to walk down a few flights?" Her behavior was appalling. How dare she speak to me like that? The ire I had buried was climbing to the top again. "I didn't walk. I took the elevator." "Did you now? It looks like it chewed you up and spit you out," she curtly teased. I opened my mouth to speak, only to have her hand fly up. "Stop right there," she demanded, her scowl returning as she looked me up and down. You came out no worse for the wear, so stop sniveling. Oh, before I could say another word, which I couldn't find one, the woman took her attention away from me. She snatched up a bulky stapler, threw it in the box, followed by several cartons of staples. Her mouth drew up at the corner as if finding something amusing. "The elevator," she giggled to herself. "Isn't that rich?" She added a wooden cylinder containing an assortment of colored pencils to the box. "Excuse me," I stressed. "I can see you're busy, but is Coral Stevens available? She told me to ask for her when I got here." This mongrel would not bully me. She stopped her quest of scooping up all the writing implements and contracted her brow. "Is that so?" she spewed. "Well, it may look like I work here, but as of 5 minutes ago, that witch fired me. With that said, Your Highness, you'll have to find someone else to announce your arrival." One by one, the woman forced the removal of the drawers from their encasements in the desk and dumped the contents into the storage box. When the irate woman pilfered enough of the company's supplies, she forced the lid onto the stuffed box and removed her purse from under the desk. The weight of the treasure trove should have posed a problem, but the animosity she exuded provided enough power for her to fling the carton's bottom edge on her hip and whip by me as if I were one of those ficus trees. "Enjoy your time at the agency," she bellowed with disdain dripping from her lips. In her haste to vacate the office, she threw the glass door open so hard it seemed it would come back on itself and shatter into a million pieces. I had never witnessed such an episode of hostility from a person in their place of employment. Alone once more, I recalled the disturbing dialogue. With indignation, the woman mentioned the witch, whom I assumed she meant was Coral. The Wizard of Oz came to mind, and I asked myself if Coral was a good witch or a bad witch. It's obvious this woman thought the latter, but thinking back to Coral's interview with me, she seemed very congenial and good-natured. I nibbled my thumbnail. There went the polish. Time was ticking, and if I didn't do something soon, I'd be late in reporting to the boss on my first day. I knocked on the closed door out of which the female version of Attila the Hun had exited. It required knocking 3 times before someone opened the door, and when they did, it surprised me. There in front of me stood a young boy of about 4 years old who looked like a cherub with chubby cheeks ripe enough to pinch. Curls of dark brown hair framed his face, and piercing green eyes sparkled under eyelashes that only a mature woman should own.
"Hi!"
He clasped onto the edge of the door and brimmed with a broad grin.
"Are you here to see my mommy?"
"Ah, well, hello there. And what is your name, little man?"
"I am not a little man."
His brows furrowed with visible anger as he backed up against the door to keep it open, then placed his hands on his hips and scowled at my question.
"I am a little boy,"
he claimed. When he wrinkled his nose, the countless freckles scattered over its bridge seemed closer and fewer.
"You're a grown-up. You should know that."
He rolled his eyes at me and shook his head in disgust. When someone is serious and says something hysterical, how can you keep from laughing? Believe me, it was hard. "I do know the difference, and I am sorry I made such a bad mistake. Do you accept my apology?" He crossed his arms and cocked his head.
"Okay,"
he shrugged.
"I accept your apology."
"Thank you," I said with great humility, and again trying not to laugh. "Now, little boy, can you tell me your name?"
It's Beauregard Fitzgerald Kingston III,
he shouted with much ease. My eyes widened at his pronunciation of such a difficult name. My goodness, that is a wonderful name. Do you go by Beauregard or Beau? He gave me a blank stare, whereby I rephrased my question. What does your mommy call you? His little lips curled up.
Beau?
May I call you Beau too? I asked with the same enthusiasm.
You can if you tell me your name first.
It's Mrs. O'Keefe, I responded with as much gusto as he did. He furrowed his brows a second time.
That's too long. Do you have a littler name?
He was so adorable. How about Riley? He pressed his lips together and shook his head.
No, that's my doggy's name, and he's a boy. You're a girl.
With that, I turned my head to hide a grin. To regain composure, I cleared my throat. Well, I started in defense of my name. Riley can be for people too, a boy and a girl. He shrugged again.
Why are you here, Riley?
I'm meeting with Coral Stevens. Is that your mommy? I asked, knowing the last names did not match. The little boy covered his mouth with both his pudgy hands and giggled.
Who's that?
Then, puffing out his chest, he took on a committed stance as he looked me square in the eye.
My mommy's name is Mommy,
he pronounced with a commanding air. This young sprite tickled my funny bone at the pride he projected toward his mother. You love your mommy very much, don't you? I asked in a soothing tone.
I do. She hangs on the moon. That's what my daddy says. She's very pretty. Do you want to see how pretty my mommy is?
He answered. I could not take my eyes off Beau, who agreed with his father that his mother hung the moon. I would love to see how pretty your mommy is. Will you take me to her? He gripped the edge of the door.
I'll let you in if you can tell me the secret word.
Ah, it's a game now, is it? I remembered the secret word I learned as a child. Please?
That's not it.
He moved to the back side of the door and pushed it shut. Great. Now what? I knocked on the door again. This time, a woman in her mid-30s opened it. It was Coral. Her frame was tall and shaped like an hourglass, complexion flawless with high cheekbones and lips to entice any man. Shiny dark hair favored a wave at the front and turned under in a soft roll falling below the collar of the ivory cream dress that hugged her curvaceous body. Her face beamed, revealing perfect white teeth made brighter by the deep red shade of lipstick. I frowned upon that intense color choice. It reminded me of a hungry vampire draining blood from a victim's neck. Too many Dracula movies, I guess. But back to this beautiful creature standing in front of me. I noticed her eyes were the same exquisite green as Beau's, which led me to believe they belonged to the same family. Right before she spoke, 2 pint-sized arms reached around from behind her knees and encircled her legs. A head full of curls appeared, followed by 1, then 2 small eyes peering from around her hip. Of course it was Beau. I am so sorry, Riley. Coral shook her head. When presented an opportunity to meet someone new, Beau is first in line. It was silly of me to think I had corralled him in my office, but it's obvious he got away when I took a phone call. Steadying herself against the clamp her son had on her legs, she reached out a hand. Welcome. It's nice to see you again. This is my little boy. So she was Beau's mother. Why didn't she take her husband's last name? It was odd, but seemed to follow the atypical theme I'd seen here so far. I put my best foot forward and shook her hand. Yes, he made the little boy part quite clear. "Oh, dear, yes. Well," she stuttered. Then, pushing the door open, she took Bo's hand and stepped aside to let me pass into the hall.
Wait, Mommy!
Bo jumped in front of me with an outstretched arm which brought me to an abrupt halt.
She can't go in. She didn't tell you the secret word.
Coral looked at her son with perplexity. "What secret word, honey?" she asked. His palms faced up, his head cocked sideways, and his eyes flew open as wide as saucers.
Doodlebug!
He blasted out as if we were absolute imbeciles. Coral pressed her lips together, trying not to laugh at her son. "Bo," I stated with the utmost sincerity, "the secret word is Doodlebug. Now may I come in?" Not realizing he had disclosed the word, he gaped at me as though I had fallen from that moon his mother was hanging on. He pulled his mother's hand and allowed me entry. Problem solved. Or was it?